welcome to another episode of EPMS Tech Talk. I'm Joanne the Flam.
And I'm Craig Anderson.
So Craig, what do you want to talk about today?
Well, we've been hearing a lot of reports from customers about some performance issues that seem to reside around the database and their network. And some of them are performance issues related to queries that are being made to the database. It's taking a little longer than normal, reports running slow, or just the program in itself running slow.
Right.
So we've done a lot of investigating on our side about this issue, and we felt that this would be a good video to kind of point our customers in certain directions that they can look at to maybe help with this and make sure that the system is running properly. So that's why we're kind of calling this performance and health check, because these are things that they should be doing on a regular basis.
Okay.
So you've seen these yourself.
Right.
So why don't you give us some ideas of some of the areas we're going to focus on?
Okay. Well, I have a PowerPoint we can take a look at with basically 4 areas that we can kind of take a look at for things that people can look at in their own environment. So let's take a look.
Okay, great.
So the first area is the SQL Server install itself. We can also look at maintaining your database, doing database maintenance on a regular basis, looking at your antivirus software and that installation, and also looking at your network settings. So let's take a look first at the SQL Server install. And here there's 2 basic areas. We have the memory allocation settings and then the SQL Server settings.
Yeah.
Or updates, I should say.
Yeah. Because SQL, when you first implement it, it kind of assigns itself a certain amount of memory.
Right.
And that can either be over allocated or under allocated.
Well, actually, when it first installs, it's over allocated because it's the whole thing.
Okay.
It's a huge number that it just automatically assigns to it. So you can go in and tweak that. You would go into the SQL Server Management Studio. You can right-click on the server name and go to Properties, and there's a memory option there, and you'll see the memory allocation setting there, and you'll see it's a really large number, and you can just reduce that to maybe half of the amount that's on the server, or whatever you want to dedicate to SQL.
Okay, so if I ended up reducing it by half the amount and I start to see any issues, then is it probably recommended then to allocate a little bit more memory to it?
Possibly, but what happens with that memory is when a query is run, and SQL is going to use that amount of memory to run that query.
Yep.
So if you've got something that's taking a really long time and it needs more memory, it's going to suck all the memory out, and then everybody else is going to be locked out.
Okay.
Rather than maybe that one query running a little bit slower so that everybody else is still functioning.
Okay. So the database basically will try to take priority of the available memory.
Right, right.
Okay, all right, good.
Okay. The second item here is our SQL Server updates, and that also can result in performance issues running queries and reports due to SQL issues. We have seen in cases where somebody doesn't do the updates to the SQL Server software that there could be bugs that were fixed in one of our reports or queries could be running into that, and all of a sudden it just hangs or it's taking a really long time. SQL Server, unlike your operating system, doesn't automatically update. You have to go up and look at the updates for the version you're on and install those
From
service
Microsoft.
packs. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So by doing that, I'm keeping my SQL Server application healthy, up to date,
Right.
Fixing any bugs that are in it, and therefore the end result should be better performance.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good. Yep.
All right, let's move on to the next, your database maintenance. So here we talk about indexes and statistics not being rebuilt or updated, which makes it slow to access or save data. We have indexes on the database to make queries faster, but those can get fragmented over time. As you're adding and removing data in the system, those indexes are going to get fragmented. So they do need to be rebuilt and updated periodically. And that's just typical database management.
Yeah, so in SQL, there's a management tool set where you can actually apply or run these indexing protocols.
Correct, to rebuild them. And if you can go on to Google and find out all about how to do that in SQL, or we also, if you want to put an incident into support, we have some links we can provide to you that you can do the research from those links and to know what to do.
So one key point to remember here, though, is I believe with like the free SQL, you don't get those management tools. So therefore, you don't have the ability to do indexing. So even though you're saving a little money on not having to purchase the full-blown SQL database application,
Right.
that is where you lose out. You lose out in the ability to manage your database.
Right. One of the tools that you don't get with the Express version is to be able to do the automatic backups right within SQL.
Okay.
There are third-party tools for things like that you can look at as well.
Yeah, but it's just kind of, a key point to remember that there's a
Right.
price for something being
Right.
free. You're losing out on something.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, so let's move on to the next topic, and that's your antivirus software. And there's three areas here. You have the network exploit mitigation, which monitors your traffic. You have your antivirus software, which monitors applications that you're loading. And then the third issue would be your email program. So basically, the resulting issues from these could be you'll have a slow access when you're because you're sending data back and forth, because the antivirus software is monitoring all that traffic back and forth in your network. Then you have every time you're loading an application, like you're loading data collections or you're loading purchasing or you're loading an interface, it's monitoring every application back and forth. And then your email program, if it's checking your emails back and forth and you're emailing out of enterprise, that could slow things down.
No, we've seen an increase in this problem in the last couple of years, and that's a byproduct of all the spam and virus hacks that are going on. So as companies are trying to get more self-protective from these virus attacks and everything else, you're implementing better antivirus programs and stronger network control programs. The result of this, though, is you sometimes lock it down so much that it can affect a program like ours unintentionally.
Correct.
So this is where you need to identify that antivirus is the issue, and we've seen this a lot, that it has been the issue, and by then going in and setting up the antivirus to either ignore certain enterprise traffic,
Right.
can solve this problem and prevent these slowness issues. So one of the things I want to recommend to everybody, again, this has become a big problem lately, that if all of a sudden you're starting to see performance issues with enterprise, not only is the database maintenance part that we first discussed a good thing to look at, but definitely the network issue, because this has become a real key issue in the last several months.
Right.
Yeah.
And you could try just completely not installing it and seeing if that resolves the issue. Then you know that it's your antivirus software, and then you can go back and look at seeing about making exceptions, as you said, for different enterprise programs.
we've seen slowing this down internally just because we've implemented tighter antivirus programs, because we actually got hacked not too long ago.
Right.
And we were able to recover from it. But so that's good. That's good to know. All
Okay.
right, excellent.
And then the last area to take a look at is your network settings. You could have DNS issues, and you could also have latency issues. And the DNS issues would cause delays in connecting to the SQL server, and the latency issues could be problems with your network hardware. So for example, excuse me, if you're having DNS issues, that means that when you connect to your SQL server, you're usually in your configuration putting in your SQL server name. Well, if you're having a DNS issue, then your network's having trouble trying to find the SQL server based on its name. Well, one quick, easy solution to that is put in the IP address of your SQL server. Then it doesn't have to do that resolution. It just goes right to the IP.
It goes right to the IP address.
Right. And then if you are having problems with a network adapter, a network cable, your router, those could cause latency issues. And it's just basically
and that is another common thing. And all of a sudden, something that's been working for a while starts to behave badly.
Right.
And simple things like a network card in the workstation is starting to fail or fail, or even the cable itself is starting to have a problem. We've seen this time and time again. And these things are kind of hard to just figure out. You have to kind of test each one and take out the factor to see where the problem is. But this is definitely an issue that does happen, and sometimes it's hard to figure out.
Sometimes just installing Enterprise on the SQL server and connecting and doing things right on the server itself, that takes away the whole network connectivity. So that'll tell you if things work in there and they aren't on the workstations, then there's probably
that proves that the enterprise is communicating effectively with the database and passing information back and forth appropriately.
Right.
Yeah. So that helps helps narrow it down a little bit to a network issue.
Right.
Okay.
So those are the four basic areas. Do you have any questions?
No, I do want to add something that you don't have on your PowerPoint. Again, this is something we recently experienced and I want to talk about again, because this is about performance and health check, is backups. We've had some experiences where customers thought they were having good backups and they weren't.
Right.
They thought their IT company, outside IT company, was making sure the backups were happening accordingly, and they weren't. Thank God, in the 2 cases that happened in the last 6 months, we actually happened to have a copy of their database that was only a few weeks old, so they were able to recover. But I can't stress enough that all of this stuff that we're talking about today is very important in maintaining the health of enterprise and its use in your company. But backups as well are very important. And we recommend, there's many ways of achieving this, but we recommend not only do you back up SQL locally to another directory or drive, but you also are backing that up to some sort of media that is being removed from the building.
Right.
Whether it's a cloud backup service, whether you're backing it up to an actual media and removing it, or you're using some sort of backup appliance.
Right.
So I just wanted to touch base on that a little bit.
Okay. All right.
All
Well,
right.
thank you.
Well, this is all good information, so hopefully this will help you out with your network. If you start to see performance issues, as always, contact us. But these are just some of the things that we're going to direct you to look at. So having this information ahead of time hopefully helps you.
Great. Well, thank you.
Thanks.
And thank you for joining us for another episode of EPMS Tech Talk. I'm Joanne LaFlamme.
And I'm Craig Anderson.
Please look forward for more to come.